Thank you everyone for joining today's VGRS Grantee training session. This session is being recorded. We request that you mute all microphones to ensure that everybody can hear me, the trainer, while we're going over the training. We may potentially request you to unmute your microphone only if it is applicable to whatever is being discussed at that moment. Otherwise, we request that all questions or comments are dropped into the chat, and we have team members in the chat that will try and answer them in a timely manner if time permits. Otherwise, we will answer a question in a different format, be it by email, a Q&A document, or whatever means at a later date. Links to the slide can be found at the link shown on the screen right there. That is the VETS Grantee Reporting System webpage on the U.S. Department of Labor website. The recordings and the user guide will be on the page no later than August 23rd. Hopefully sooner than that, but it will be then. It will be on no later than then. That being said, we are going to go ahead and start the training. As previously mentioned, today we are doing our kickoff for the VETS Grantee Reporting System, also known as VGRS or VGRS, depending on who you're speaking with, grantee staff training. This training starts today and ends on Thursday the 15th. So I'm going to need to mute that. Sorry. If you are new to the call, I request that you mute your microphone. The training team today consists of myself, Katera Fala. I am the VGRS Scrum Master and Business Analyst, and today I'm going to be your trainer. It also consists of Jacob Merkel, who is a VGRS developer, and he is going to be providing training support in the chat today. In today's call, our agenda is the training kickoff. So we're going to explain the VGRS objectives in upcoming scheduled sessions. We also have a discussion about the grantee staff role, how it plays in VGRS, and what permissions you may have. We're going to have a system overview. We're going to discuss how to access VGRS, and I'm going to go through it slowly so you guys can join me and maybe potentially do it right then and there, or you can just access the recording at a later date and do it yourself. We'll go over the system features. We'll have a brief system demo. Grantee specific training, I'm going to go over just a system overview of what the system is for you guys, your user management, technically not management, but just your grantee organization, like how to view it, what you're going to see there, your grant record management, which we will begin data entry and just exploring in detail tomorrow. The performance report record, and that needs to be updated. I apologize. But we are going to go over the performance report record and what you guys will have to input and everything on Thursday in detail, so you can see what needs to occur. You're going to see when it comes back and it's returned to you, and what to expect when that does occur. So here we're going to go into the VGRS kickoff. So the objectives, the VETS Grantee Reporting System, also known as VGRS or VGRS, will be replacing the Microsoft Excel and portable document format, which we all know as PDF, forms currently used to collect project and performance information from VETS grant recipients. The initial launch is a minimum viable product that replaces the quarterly data collection and report functions of the VETS 701 HVRP Technical Performance Report, TPR, Excel workbook, and the VETS 702 Technical Performance Narrative, TPN PDF document. So vigorous in production, this is what the MVP currently is. That staff and grantee staff can complete the tasks associated with quarterly performance reporting entirely within Vigorous, beginning with program year 2024 quarter one. So starting this quarter year, you can begin using it. And by the end of the quarter, submit your reports. Those tasks translated into Vigorous are as follows. So user management is the registration process of DOL users. Assignments of goaters, the registration process of grantees, which is what is applicable to you. Grantee organization management, you have the grantee organization creation with the initial information and the provisioning of grantees membership. For grant record management, we have multiple modules, which I will explain a little bit more in further detail later. That includes summary, goals, budget, personnel, grantee user access, participants and enrollments. These are sort of like a two-in-one module. Outcomes, demographic summary, performance reports, history, grant summary, grant submission status. So the performance report management and review workflow, you're able to submit quarterly performance reports. Over time, more features for HVRP will be developed and pushed into the production environment. Those will be done via phased releases. Scheduled sessions, as you're all aware, today is our first day of training. Training continues tomorrow and Thursday, same exact time, 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern. And then we have 2 optional technical assistance listening hours, and the first one will occur this Friday. The next one will occur next Thursday. Both of these are at 2 to 3 p.m. as well. If you do not have an invite to any of the above sessions, please reach out to your goater. So for key resources, these are all important links that we will somewhat be either discussing today or just relevant information regarding the HVRP grant. The first link being the Vigorous page on the DOL website. I'm not sure of everything else. The HVRP glossary of terms is something that you can and will actually, the one above as well, the HVRP quarterly performance reporting desk guide revised, and the glossary of terms are both related to our grant record, and you may actually see references to the glossary of terms when I go and demonstrate and show you the grant record. You'll see it next to certain fields, just to better explain either the options or the purpose of the measure or question being asked. On the right-hand side, we have 3 links. These are all associated with login.gov, and as we begin our discussion about user management, we'll go further in depth into these. But login.gov, that is the first link to access the website. If you do not have a login.gov account, the second link is to create one, and third is for any help you may have. Any questions you may have about login.gov is something, unless like it's what the link is or something, not something that we can really assist with since we do not own the application. User management. So the grantee staff role, the grantee staff role is for grant recipients, staff members who provide budgetary, participant, or enrollment data and narratives for quarterly performance reports, or in Vigorous, we refer to as PRs. You, as a grantee staff member, will have the permission to access only those grants that have been assigned to you by VETS staff. You have read-only access to permitted Vigorous records and data, such as the grantee organization. You only have read-only access, but you can see both the summary, which has the basic information about your organization, and the members list. In the grant record, you have read-only access to the summary and goals module, the only two modules that are editable that you only have read-only access to. There are two additional ones, outcomes and history, but those cannot be edited in any way besides recalculating outcomes, and we're going to show you more on that today and tomorrow. So as a grantee staff member, you are able to create and manage access to create and manage to the grants that you have been permitted access to. So those modules that you can manage are the budget module, the participants and enrollments module, personnel module, and I believe performance reports. You're also able to create, manage, and submit performance reports or PRs. A grant must have at least one grantee staff user assigned to it to complete and submit the quarterly performance report. There cannot be a grant without a grantee staff member, otherwise you will not have a performance report submitted as you're required to. So grantee staff users, in VGRS, there is currently a limit of 4 grantee users per grant. User access is established at the individual grant level, not the organization level. However, if user A is responsible for inputting budget information for 3 grants, user A will be counted toward one of the 4 slots available for each grant. So it's not like you can only have, if you have 4, if a grantee organization has 4 grants, you can only have those 4 people, like those 4 people split between the one, have one each or something. Any grant that has more than 4 users requesting access may have all users beyond the initial 4 to be rejected. If you need to assign more than 4 users to the grant, contact your GOTR to discuss options. Who should request access? Grant personnel who input participant enrollment, training, services, exit, and follow-up information, plan budget, actual expenditures, staff hours charged to the grant, and performance narrative updates, corrective actions, and performance report certification. If you are a grantee staff member and you do not input those, you wouldn't have much to do on VGRS. So how to access VGRS. And what I'm going to do is go through the slides, and then once I finish up the group of slides, I will go back and demonstrate it and create an account live with you guys so you can see what the process is. And that includes creating a brand new login.gov account. So how to access VGRS. Grantee staff access to VGRS is a multi-part process. Part 1 is login.gov account. You need one. 2 is VGRS registration request. 3 is VGRS registration decision. So this is VETS approving or denying a registration request. 4 is grantee staff user management. So the grantee staff member is going to then be assigned to a grantee organization, and from there be determined, or not determined, be then assigned to one or multiple grant numbers depending on what you had requested. Completing the first 3 steps will allow you to log into VGRS, but you won't be able to view or edit your grant information until step 4 is completed. And I'm going to show you how you can find out if step 4 has been completed or not when we go through the demonstration. So part 1, the login.gov account. This is to sign in and create. So step 1, you must have a login.gov account. In blue, you see if you already have a login.gov account, sign in to login.gov, and the URL is right here. You can click either one, sign in. If you wish, in gray right below that is just the help center in case you have any questions. And then in red, if you do not have a login.gov, you should create a login.gov account, and both of those are the links to do so. So part one continues. So to access DOL, once you have been logged into login.gov, you will need to access the VGRS site, which is this URL as shown in the parentheses. You will need to accept the rules of behavior for the DOL environment by clicking on I agree. And then once you have your account created and you are logged into login.gov, click on the click here if you are a login.gov user link. So once again, I will go over this in a demonstration. I'll go over it a little bit slower so you can see the steps and you can follow through. The agree to rules of behavior. Once you have your account created, you are logged into login.gov, read the login.gov rules of behavior and click on agree and continue. So that's just going to be a page that looks like this with the DOL building in the banner. Just says like as a privileged login.gov user, I agree that I will faithfully abide by the following rules. And there's a blue agree and continue button that you would need to click. Next, in the DOL environment, you will be asked to update your profile because when you initially go into this page, unlike this example, the first name is going to be your email, the last name is going to be your email, and it will not allow you to submit until you do that. So you will need to input the email that your goder or you are known and say if your name happens to be on a contract, you will need that name. Whatever name is recognized, you will have to put that in. Otherwise, nobody's going to approve you as user. So you will need to input your first and last name. Then you will be free to click submit. So here, find Vigorous. Once you have gone ahead and clicked that submit from the previous update profile page, you will be brought to a page that has multiple cards and it says something like manage application access. You will need to find a VETS Grantee Reporting System Vigorous card on the bottom right of the manage application access homepage. I suppose that depends on your screen resolution. On my resolution, it tends to be on the bottom right. But the current card, as you can see here, has the VETS logo and it says VETS Grantee Reporting System. The future card is going to have the HVRP logo just to make it a little more clear that we are not VSTMS because we had only just recently discovered that there's a lot of similarities between the Vigorous and VCMS cards. So it's causing some confusion at registration and we plan on changing it and that future version should be occurring within the next few weeks. So from there, we're going to, once you find the card, as mentioned, the current one is the one on the left. We are going to request you select register to be redirected to a registration request form. I'm sorry, is somebody's mic unmuted? If you're able to mute it, I would appreciate it. Thank you. So next, you're going to submit the form. So once you click on register, you're going to see a form that looks more or less like this. It says up front, register for Vigorous, your user, whatever name you had input in that update profile. It's gonna, like that's the example email I used for this example. And it's gonna give you instructions and it's gonna give you a few fields to input. So you must fill out the form. Whatever information that you have, please do input it. You also must absolutely select your organization name and grant number. If you need and require access to more than one grant, we request that you input it into the notes. So that way we are sure whoever is doing the review, be it your voter or somebody else from your state, is able to confirm that they had input all the grants that you need access to and not the singular one that you had input. So we also do recommend you send an email to your voters, but there's a potential that your voter may request you don't. So I would want to communicate with them at that, for that. So next, once you have submitted that form, you need to know one thing, that you are unable to submit another registration request. It will be blocked. So while you're waiting for your registration request, the register button will be grayed out. As you can see, it's no longer a dark blue. This stops potential users from flooding the registration request queue and allows VET staff adequate time to respond. So the registration decision, this is not something we're going to necessarily demonstrate. I will have him demonstrate a rejection so you can see that I will receive a notification email. But going ahead, registration requests are reviewed by VET staff and are either approved or rejected. This will likely be your GOTR or another member of your grant's primary service delivery state. As grantees, you will receive an email notification informing you of the decision made for your individual request. If your request was approved, you will then have access to VGRS, but as previously mentioned, just because you're approved does not mean you have record access. And once again, that is something we will go into in detail to explore and see how you know you weren't given record access. If you were rejected, you will then be able to resubmit a request using all previous steps, but I would be sure, if I was you, to communicate with your GOTR to find out why you had been rejected. Potentially, it could be that your grant was already at 5 users or 4 or more users, and therefore they had to reject you. So going ahead, this is what it looks like for a VETS user going in to review a registration request. They have a form that inputs all the information you had inputted, your record details. Essentially, it says vigorous details, which includes your position title, which grantee organization you had selected, your grant number, and any notes you had input. They can click either approve or reject. If they click reject, it will request a comment, and off the top of my head, I can't recall if you will see the comment or not, and we can go ahead and test that when we do the demonstration. But approval, there's no need to put a comment in, and so if you were to be able to see any of the comments, it really wouldn't matter because it would just also inform you that you can access the website or access the application, I should say. Going forward, next is the user profile. So once approved, you will be able to view your vigorous user profile, which is different from the CMP profile that you just input your name in. This consists of 2 major sections: the user profile, which consists of all your provided contact information at the time of your registration request. So it's going to include your name, but it's also going to include if you had input an office or mobile number and whatever your login.gov email is. So it has your contact information in that section. Then the vigorous profile settings. And that consists of your provided position title and the records you have been provided access to, the grantee organization grant records. When VETS approves your registration request, VETS staff must manually add you to your requested organization and grant numbers selected on your registration request. So if you require access to more than one organization or grant, you must include them in your request, and that's why I mentioned in the notes, please include them. Otherwise, you will need to contact your GOTRs to receive additional access. If you notice that your associated access is incorrect or incomplete, please contact your GOTR immediately. So this is the no access view. This is my profile. You can see I'm grantee staff. I did not provide any mobile or office numbers, so they are blank, but you can see my email. In the vigorous profile settings, you can see my position title, but in the grantee organization and grant sections, which are highlighted in yellow, you can see that there is no record associated. So therefore, I am a user with no record access. However, if I have access, you can see my user profile section, the contact information remains the same, but when you come down into the vigorous profile settings, in the grantee organization section, I have a grantee organization associated with me, and then in the grant section, I have a grant associated with me. You can see the two links. They might be a little bit small, I'm not sure because my screen's a little small, but so it looks small to me regardless, but that is what you're going to see. That being said, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment so I can open up my Chrome and then demonstrate the entire process from creating a login.gov account if you should not have one. So just so we can all walk through it together if you're all interested in doing so now. Just give me one quick moment. I'm using a throwaway email, so please forgive me. And sharing my screen. What happened? Sorry, I need to clear my cache before I'm going to share my screen because it loaded the wrong thing. There you go. Okay, awesome. Can you see my Chrome window? Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so that being said, as you can see, this is a lower environment just because I don't have a login.gov account on the actual one and I didn't want to create like a personal real one right now. But yeah, as John said, grantees on a call, you may want to change your view to focus on content during the demo. So please do so. But everything you see here is how you're going to see and interact with it in the upper environments within a week or so. So we're going to pretend this is the production environment. We are at, you can see it at the end, it says VGRS or vigorous. This is the first slide that we showed you. When you click the link, this is where it's going to bring you. We're going to go ahead and click I agree. We're going to go ahead and click as a login.gov user because this is grantee training. So, and I'm going to say that even though I saw the stats that said create an account, I thought I had one. We go in, sign in, and apparently it doesn't exist. So I'm going to go ahead and create an account here, which is very easy. You just click that. I am using a throwaway email, which is what this tab is for. And what did I name it? So my last name. So to mimic my DOL last name, so or email my last name dot first name at yahoomail.com. I'm gonna go ahead and paste that. For the sake of training, I'm using a throwaway account just so I don't have anybody emailing my personal account. Please do not use a throwaway account for your real login.gov account. It's not best practice. We do not recommend that. It's just what I'm doing for training only. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to select English as my preferred email language. I have read and accept the login.gov rules of use. I'm going to go ahead and submit. It instructs you to check your email. So I'm going to come back to this tab, hit refresh. Oh no, it just kicked me out. Sorry. Didn't expect all ads, but there you go. So you can see my email updated. It says confirm email address. We're going to go ahead and do that. I have a password already that I'm going to use. So we're going to use this password. There you go. So I have a great password. I'm going to go ahead and hit continue. And only for the purposes of this training, I'm going to use backup codes. I recommend you use an authentication application or a text or voicemail or both if you have any of the other ones too, I would say do them, but only to make training easier and quicker, I'm just using backup codes. Backup codes you can do, but I would say you do that only in conjunction with another one. I'm gonna go ahead and copy and input into my notepad off screen. There you go. So we save these backup codes. I put my backup codes in a safe place, and I'm gonna go ahead and hit continue. So as you can see, it recommends that you do have another method, and I absolutely recommend that you also have another method, but for the sake of training, just so we're not wasting time, I'm just going to go ahead and click continue. So here we go. So in your case, it's going to say DOL CMP. It's not going to have the staging, and we're going to go ahead and agree. So as you can see, I am back to the DOL website, but this is now the DOL page, and it's the login.gov rules of behavior. This reads, as a privileged login.gov user, I agree that I will faithfully abide by the following rules. And the rules are: 1, you are accessing a U.S. government information system that is owned and operated by the Department of Labor. There is no right to privacy in the system. The Department of Labor information systems are provided for the processing of official U.S. government information only, and are therefore owned by the Department of Labor. Authorized users are responsible for the proper handling of the government data, equipment, and resources which they access. 2 is use of the system by any user, authorized or unauthorized, constitutes a consent to this monitoring, recording, disclosure, and accepts that the use of the system is subject to audit by authorized personnel. And 3 is fraud and related activity in connection with computers is prohibited by Title 18 U.S. Code Section 1030. Furthermore, this law states that intentionally accessing a computer without authorization or exceeding authorized access and thereby obtaining information from any department or agency of the United States is prohibited and subject to civil and criminal penalties, including but not limited to punishment by fine and/or imprisonment. Additionally, DOL may provide law enforcement with any potential evidence of a crime found on aforementioned systems in order for them to investigate such offenses. I read it once just so you guys all understand what it is. When you get to this page, I just suggest you agree and continue so we all get through that. You recognize and accept that what the rules of behavior is. I'm going to go ahead, as I mentioned, when you get to the update profile page, you need to input your first and last name, and you can see right here, it's informing me that I'm not going to be able to submit. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to submit until I do that. So I'm going to go ahead and put my first and last name, and now I can submit. So in this lesser environment, the reason why I wanted to show you this environment because it has this version. I can go ahead and also replicate this process. Give me 1 second in the prod environment a little bit faster. Let me just get the URL pre-prod environment, just so you can see the current version. Like the staging has these updates, the update that we mentioned in the slide, but let me just process this registration request and then I'll show you the pre-prod, which is going to replicate what your prod environment looks like, what you guys are all accessing. So here we go. As you can see, this in the upcoming week will be reflected in the prod environment instead of, you see how VCMS has a VETS logo, and at first glance, if you're just seeing VETS system, you might assume that they're the same. That is the reason we made the change, and we updated this descriptor to say allows HVRP grant recipients to create and submit performance reports. So I'm going to go ahead once again, submit this registration request, and then also show you how that page looks like for a prod user currently, just so you can confirm that is the same for you. Position title, I'm going to go ahead and write outreach supervisor, coordinator. office phone number, I'm gonna go 521 555 1234. And my organization name is going to be Alliance to Restore the Republic, Department of Veteran Affairs. Grant number, it is, when I click this, you can see it has a selection of 2. I'm going to go ahead and select one of them. And then in the notes, indicate that I have a second one. I also need access to 24/5, I think 60 HV 909090. And we're going to go ahead and click submit. Jacob, can you do me a favor and reject this request, please, in the staging environment? I'm going to go ahead and show them what the pre-prod looks like and therefore mimics what their view is going to be. So this is a pre-prod environment. This is more or less identical copy of what production looks like right now. I'm going to hit I agree. We're going to go ahead, login.gov, user. We're going to just close that one just so I don't get confused. You're signing in for the first time. I'm going to head and say agree and continue because it's true that it's my first sign in for this environment. Once again, we've already read through the login.gov rules of behavior. So for this, I'm just going to bypass it and click agree and continue. Update profile, same thing. I need to go in and input my name. Taravala, we're going to go ahead, hit submit. And then as you can see, currently the VCMS and VGRS vigorous ones look the same at first glance. You have that VETS logo and it's really easy to just maybe want to click this one. And therefore is why we had the slide to showcase how they are different and to pay attention how this one says VETS case management system. This one down here says VETS Grantee Reporting System vigorous, and that's why we have it in the parentheses. And then the descriptor for our application currently today, if you are attempting to log in or submit a registration request right now, it should say view grants and manage performance reports. If you want to wait a week, that is when you have the version that is shown here. But currently today, oops, oh, close that. Currently today, this is what you're going to see. The VETS logo, VETS Grantee Reporting System, and then view grants and manage performance reports. But this one as well, you can go ahead and click register and input, more or less do the same thing. So like if I wanted to say supervisor, that didn't save the number, 571 555 0000. And then say, do I have it? Yep. And then 2 different grants. Access to, what is the number? 0084. Submit. Okay, going back to staging because this is where we're doing our demonstration. Jacob, have you performed a rejection? You have. Okay, so go ahead. So as you can see, I refreshed my email. We have an email from VGRS. Unfortunately, we are unable to change this to be VGRS@DOL.gov, but it's a do not reply. Nobody's going to respond if you do respond to that email. And that's why you have the note. Your registration request for VETS Grantee Reporting System vigorous has been rejected. The following comments were provided. You have applicated for the wrong grant. Thank you. So yeah, the comment that is shown gets shown to you. Therefore, potentially your coder may have implied it there. This is for audit purposes, so be sure that you request access to the correct organization and the correct grant. If you request access to the incorrect ones, we must reject it because later down the line when we perform audits, it's not going to look good if we assigned you to a completely different, irrelevant grantee organization. So please be sure to do that. This means, however, that I am now eligible in the staging environment to submit a new registration request. I'm going to close this pre-prod one. come back here. We're going to refresh our page. As you can see, that grayed out went away, so I can go ahead and click register. I'm going to go ahead and input my information the same again, just a cheat sheet. Go down and select my organization again, select the grant number, and 22, I did not pay attention, 560, okay. I need access to 22,560 HV 898989 as well. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and submit that. Jacob, please go ahead and approve me. Do not add me to any records, though. So while we wait for Jacob to do that, I'm going to go back into my email. Jacob, do let me know when you have.
You have been approved.
Thank you. Excellent. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh. Just so you're aware, there's a good question in the chat that someone was asking about what the position title needs to be, and Jacob responded beautifully with position title should be whatever your position title is within your grantee organization. There is no true requirements for the position title field. That field was purposely developed as a free text entry to allow flexibility between different orgs or positions that would be using VGRS. However, when I try to log in now, I get this error. Adriana, maybe change, okay, so go back to that link and instead of VGRS at the end, maybe keep it as DOL or change it to DOL and see if that changes something. Because I'm thinking yeah, so I think the access denied is because you haven't been approved yet to the system. So that's why your access has been denied to the application itself. Once you receive your email that you have received access, then that direct link will take you to the application every time. But okay, so coming back here, in my email, you can see that this is the new update. Your registration request for VETS Grantee Reporting System has been approved. Therefore, I will have access. When I come here, registration will be blocked out because I already have an open. I don't have an open. It's closed technically, but I can't register further for an application I have access to. I'm going to refresh. I'm going to, like, if you're on this page and you have been submitted this email, you have been informed that you have been approved, we're going to go ahead and click this, what we call the CMP application menu. So you're going to click that, and then you're going to see this VETS Grantee Reporting System. So we have VGRS right here. We can switch into VGRS, and this is what it's going to look like. We're going to go more on this in a little bit. We're at a good point where we can pause for a 5 to 10 minute break, or we can keep going, and then once we finish like the second demo, we can end there for the day and then recontinue tomorrow. Do you guys have a preference?
Let's move forward. That way the recording is seamless.
Okay, excellent. Sorry. Okay, we're going to stop sharing. I'm going to share the presentation one more time. And let me bring back to the slide. Okay. Now, oh, I forgot to show you guys the user profile. So that's what I'm going to do. I apologize. I'm going to go back to my window. Here you go. So as you can see, we're all back at the VGRS website, at the home page. I had been approved as a user. That's why I can see it. I'm going to go ahead and click on View User Profile. The user profile has my contact. I thought I put office number. I will check why that is, but we're going to click on View User Profile. As you can see, I had requested of Jacob not to give me any record access, so that's why my grantee organization and grants are currently blank. In the upcoming demo, you will see that I will have access, but we will jump back into that after the deck. So I'm going to go ahead and close this, stop sharing, go back into the PowerPoint, present, and back into system overview. So Jacob, during this time, if you can do me a favor and update me to have access to both grants for the organization, I would greatly appreciate that. So that being said, we're going to jump ahead in the VGRS System Overview section. Here we're going to discuss the different components of the homepage. So here we go at the homepage. As you can see, we have a navigation bar, which is that blue bar up top. The welcome banner, which is the area that in which the American flag is the background image of. The announcements section, it's that first yellow box and the white text beneath it. We have a My Grants section, which is the second yellow golden box with the table beneath it. We have a quick link sidebar, which is that blue box to the right, and the footer, which is the blue box to the bottom. In the upcoming slides, we're going to go further in detail on a few of these. When we do this system demo, we're also going to go into them on in great detail, and I'll explore the different links in the footer and in quick links just so you're familiar with them. So the homepage, I just wanted to show you because I showed you a homepage without a grant access. This is how it's going to look like when I am provisioned grant access. So we have that grid. It's going to have a row and entry with the grant number, the initial award year, the primary service delivery state for said grant or organization name, the requested funding amount for the first program year, the signed voter, the why is that too small? Sorry. The status and high risk status. So it's an active grant and it is not high risk. Next is our navigation bar. So this is a feature that's accessible across the application. We have, I would say, three main components. One is the main menu, which includes the DOL logo and home. Both of these return back to the VGRS homepage. So the place where we see our announcements and our grants in that small grid. In the main menu, we also have the search link. All the way to the right, you see where it says VETS Grantee Reporting and then the ... and the arrow. That is what we call the CMP Application Access menu. That is what I clicked on to go from the Application Access Request page to VGRS during our demo. And to the right of that is the CMP user icon, and that's just the overall platform's profile essentially for you, and you can go ahead and click that to log out of the platform at any time. We're going to go ahead and navigate forward. Next is our search. So the search page provides users with an easy to navigate grid to filter, sort, or search records via two categories. Categories are performance reports and grants. As grantees, you will only be seeing the grant records of which you have been provisioned direct access to, which includes all related performance report records. Users are encouraged to save their own filter selections and default them to make the grids more manageable, and this is something we'll go over in the demo. So search, filter, and sort. VGRS consists of grids, tables throughout the application. Certain grids are more specialized and include the ability to search, filter, and sort. We use grids and tables interchangeably because this is an Appian app. We use grids. but it means the same thing as a table. Search feature works across the grid in which any text input into the search bar will filter to show only those rows that have something that matches. Filters are used for the specific related columns. Users can save multiple filters for easy view of different criteria, including creating a default view. These different saved filters will not be present to other users, only the one who had created them. Basic column sorting is default across these special grids. So we're going to go ahead and perform a system demo. This demonstration will be more detailed look of the home and homepage and all the associated links on the page itself. We're going to go and just like look at the navigation bar, explore into the search page and the different categories, and I'm going to go over how to use the filters and best how to use them. What I go over in the search page would probably be better used in the participants module, but it's just something that I want to show while we can. And then we're going to have a brief look at the record types. And with that, I'm going to jump back into my window. So I'm back on my Chrome window. I'm going to go ahead and, sorry, just trying to look at the chat. There you go. Okay, so I'm back in my Chrome window. I'm going to go back to the home page. So on the home page, as you can see, I had been assigned to both these grants. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what my user profile looks like now. So now we still have our same grantee organization, but we have both, not the same. We now have the grantee organization I requested access to, and now both of the grant records I had requested access to. Thank you, Jacob. I'm going to go back to the home page. And in the home page, so this is what we called our navigation bar. As I mentioned, if I click the DOL seal, it's just going to return me back home, or not return, essentially refresh the page. Click home is going to return me home. Search is going to bring me to the search page. We'll go over that in a second. I'm going to come back to the home page. This is the CMP application access menu. Should you, for whatever reason, need access to a different CMP application, this is what you're going to use. You're going to have to become familiar with clicking between the apps. Otherwise, unless I cannot see anything. Okay, let me just stop sharing really quick and then share again. Hopefully you can see something now. Is my screen viewable? No. Did you do the focus on content search? Because other people are saying it is viewable. Okay, awesome. Okay, so, but yeah, so if you have, say for whatever reason you need access to VCMS as well, this would be how you switch between the applications without having to update the URL up here. Or go between your bookmarks. You would need the CMP application menu. Like I can go here to enroll into VCMS if I wanted to. I don't want to, so I'm just going to close that tab and then return to VGRS. And then as I mentioned, this is the CMP profile. So here you can see this is going to be my CMP profile. If I click that, I don't know what the setting says. It's irrelevant to us right now, so we're not going to go over it, and sign out if I want to log my login.gov account out. And then this is the welcome banner, this section here with the flag in the background, VGRS or VGRS and VETS Grantee Reporting System. This further confirms you're on the right application. It's going to have a welcome. It's going to have your first name only and your application roles. So as you guys all had seen in this demonstration, I had gone in, registered access as a grantee staff member, and therefore that is my role. Announcement currently just says welcome to VGRS. We'll have more whenever more crucial dates come around. In the My Grants, we have access to both the My Grants, and as you can see, one is a 2022 grant, one is a 2024, which can also be visible in the grant number itself by the first two digits. Like you can see, one's a Massachusetts grant, the other one's Maryland, same organization, slightly different funding amounts, and so on. And this is just going to show every single grant you have access to. So you can just easily, whenever you come on, log into the page, you can just click on the record and you will be shown the grant. So here we go. In quick links, we have our view user profile, as you've seen I've demonstrated multiple times. We also have the link to the HVRP page on the DOL website. So if I had any questions for HVRP, I can just go ahead and click that and I am there. And finally, in our footer, we have a couple of links. We have accessibility statement, and I'm not going to read this in full, but it is something that is nice to read, especially if accessibility is a need for you. I mean, it should be a need for everyone, but this is our statement regarding it. You can go ahead, return to home. So now I'm back to the home page. We also have our public burden statement here. This one's also quite a bit of text, so I'm not going to read it currently. I suggest that you do read it when you do have access to the application and just go over the information covered here. But you will see that we have the OMB control number, we have the applicable hours for charging and so forth, and like who to contact. Return to home. And then we have about VGRS, and this is going to take you to the VGRS page, and it has since updated, as you can see. And I'm not sure if everybody got the email update, but the training documents will be saved here, and we currently have the training deck online. So that is something to consider. But I would recommend reading this whenever you can. I'm going to go ahead and close this tab. And finally, we have our contact us link. So contact us. So for any technical issues or questions about the VGRS application, please contact VGRS support by sending an email to vgrs@dol.gov. Please provide as much detail as possible to expedite resolution time, including identifiers of any relevant records, such as the grant number, performance report identifier, so forth, relevant pages or modules, the times, including time zone on which the issue had occurred, was encountered, if applicable, and detailed description of the sequence of event situation, including screenshots when possible. For questions related to HVRP performance reporting policy, please contact your GODER or send an email to HVRP National Office at hvrp@dol.gov. So just to reiterate, all things about the application, especially anything that goes wrong, must be sent at the vigorous@dol.gov email. Anything else that's related to policy goes to HVRP. So I'm going to go ahead and return to home. And that is our home page and all associated links, except for the grants, which we'll go over in a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the search page. In the search page, as previously mentioned, we have two categories, performance reports and grants. I'm going to click on the performance reports, but we're not going to have any or we are going to have one. This is just a dummy one, but we do have a performance report for one of our grants, a 909090, as can also be seen in this performance report identifier up here. But in this page, we have the search bar. We have a program year filter, so I can select by program year. We need to update that quarter end. So if I wanted not the quarter one, but the quarter two performance report, I could just go ahead, do 2024, quarter two, and then see if I have any for my two grants, which I don't. Which, by the way, is not possible. You are unable to create a performance report for a future quarter. I just wanted to select a filter that would remove this one from view. But a month is in case, for whatever reason, you are creating monthly performance reports. We do have a filter for that. This will also filter out the quarterly ones too. So like the quarter ends on March, it ends in June, it ends in September and December. So if I click September, because that is when quarter one ends, that will still maintain my search. So it'll still show you quarterly related ones here too. Region, so I'm not sure if anybody paid attention, but my two grants, for example, one's in Boston, one's in Philly. So if I wanted to just like filter it out without typing in the associated short grant number for either one of my grants, I can go ahead, just click region, and just like if I want to see the Philly one, this is the Philadelphia only. It's gonna filter it out only to show the Philadelphia performance reports. That being said, same thing with the primary service delivery state. I can go ahead and filter out to whatever state I want. Say instead of the two I currently have, I have three, and two of them are in Philadelphia, one's in Virginia. I can go ahead and just filter it out, so I only see my Virginia one as well. Population category, I believe this is also filter in grants, but this is just going to drop down. You got the choice between the homeless women's veterans and homeless veterans with children, the HVRP and IVTP programs. All right, currently all of these are HVRP. I could potentially have a sample dummy grant created tomorrow just so you can see IVTP or the other one, homeless women or homeless veterans with children in the grant section, but right now I don't have one. And then grant or the submission status of the performance report. And submission statuses are only one of three things, and we'll go more into it on Thursday. But for now, just at a high level, there's draft, submitted, and returned. And as you can see, currently we are in draft. So if I select draft, it will keep the filter. I'm going to teach you more on the filters and how to save them and default them when I get into the grants category. But other than that, I just wanted to go over quickly the columns in this performance report category, then we're going to jump into the grants. The performance reports category of the search page has the performance report identifier, the program year, the quarter end, the month, submission status, the organization name, grant number, population category, region, primary service delivery state, the assigned GOTR, which I can search by that. Therefore, like anything you see that is visible on the grid is searchable in the search bar. And then the created time and date. And and that's what it sorts by. So you're always going to see the most recent up top. So that being said, I'm going to jump into the grants category. In the grants category, same thing. We have a search bar. We have multiple different filters. Status will always be defaulted until you save a default. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play around with the filters after I go over them just to show you guys how to create your own defaults. So I'm going to cancel that one out. The filters for the categories, not categories, the grants category are initial award year, the region, the primary service delivery state, the assigned GOTR, the population category, the status, and high risk. So if I wanted to track, like say if I was like a program manager or a director or something of an organization, and I wanted to only track the high risk ones, I can do that because like in the homepage you saw I have the list of all my grants, so I might as well have the search page only focus on anything that gets indicated as being high risk. Fortunately, these are two new grants created for training, so if I click on high risk, it's not going to show anything, but if I wanted to, if my job was only to track the high risk one, what I can do is just do that high risk yes. It's going to have to clearly be active, not terminated. And then I can go ahead and click this funnel icon. As you hover over it, it says the manage features filter, manage filters button. I'm going to go ahead and click that. I'm going to hit save filters as, and I'm going to say risk management. So as this higher up in my organization, I wanted to track only the high risk grants. So that's what I'm going to do. So this is my risk management. I'm going to set as my default. If for whatever reason I just wanted it as a filter, not as my default, I can go ahead and deselect that. So that's I'll save it as not default, and then I can go ahead and update it and show you guys how it works. And what I'll just do just to sort of clear this out is go to home and come back to search. So we're going to go into grants, and you can see because it's not default and it's not highlighted, and therefore it just went to the active default only. And we're just going to go ahead and click risk management, and it's going to show me that I have no current high risk grants. But I can always click it, but if I wanted to go ahead, I can always also manage my filters. And by clicking the star, I am setting it as the default. So I'm going to go ahead, hit save, go to home, go to search, go to grants, and you can see it's automatically selected, and I don't see any of my grants because once again, my purpose on the system is to track those high risk ones, and that's why I'm here, while home just shows me all of them already. So this use case might not be something that you guys use, but it is something you can do for anybody that has multiple grants. It'll help you like narrow and track the ones that you'd rather look at whenever you're in the search. Do we have any questions about filters by chance? The reason I did go over it is because it's also very useful when you get into the grant records themselves. Didn't see any questions about filters, I don't think, but what I'm going to do is jump into a grant and just at a very high level, just go over them with you guys, and then the upcoming slides will go into them in better detail. But as you can see, this is one of my two, actually, let me go to my grant record, I apologize. It's right here, I'm just gonna click right there. So our grantee organization is Alliance to Restore the Republic, the Department of Affairs, Veterans Affairs. Just wanted to be a little fun with that. We have two modules. We have the summary and the grantee organization members module. Summary shows you all of the high level of the grantee organization. I'll go over this in greater detail later. The grantee organization module shows you every member that has a listed grantee organization, and that's who are all listed here. And once again, these are not records that you can update or manage as a grantee as a grantee staff member. This is just something you have view only access to, and only because you were input as a member to that organization. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of this organization. So we're already in a grant record. I'm going to go into the grant record and go over a few things. So in the grant record, we have a couple of modules, as you can see here: summary, goals, budget, personnel, grantee user access, participants, outcomes, performance reports, and history. Grantee user access is where I have to be added into in order to see this grant. So as you can see, despite there being 4 users in my grantee organization, there is 1 in my grantee user access. And actually, this relates pretty fun. Okay, so coming back to the search page, there is a column called the grantee user access count column. So as you can see in our 909090 grant, there are 4 grantees. So if anybody else were to apply for that grant, they will be rejected because there's already the maximum of 4. However, in my 898989 grant, there's only the 1. and I can actually just click through that, and it takes me directly to this page. So I see I'm the only one here, and so I'm the only grantee user or person with the grantee staff role in the system that can view and manage this record. But that doesn't mean there can't be more that request access to it. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the summary page. The summary page has this status bar on the left, and right now it's just informing us that the grant is currently active. If you hover over it, it tells you that the grant is currently operational in terms of program support and ongoing performance. If this grant was terminated, it would say something differently. Fortunately, it's not. And we're going to just go down. There's different, like, all your records are going to have instructions of some form. So that's this gray area. You're free to collapse them. Some instructions, like if I go to participants, I think personnel, yeah, some instructions are longer than others, and that's why we have them be collapsible to make it easier. We suggest, especially the first time when you're on the application, that when you're exploring, that you pay attention to what the instructions say. So like for this page, for the grant summary page, it says view general information about this grant below. Use this information to identify the grant and context of its award, as well as assignments and other descriptors. So for this grant in particular, we have in our identifiers, we have the grant number and the short grant number. We have our assignments. It's the Boston Regional Grant, and my goder is Jacob. The award information, the organization name is the Alliance to Restore the Republic, the Department of VETS, or the Department of VA. The population category for this grant is HVRP, the Homeless Veterans Reintegration Program. The initial award year, 2022. The requested funding amounts is the same every 3 years. For each of the 3 years, $245,000, which then gets totaled up to $735,000. The service delivery area is Massachusetts. So this is a really fun grid in my opinion. But if it's a smaller service delivery area, you can see it's pretty short. It's just the county, FIPS code, the CSA, the combined statistical area, the CBSA, which is the core-based statistical area. I don't know if we want to go over these, and the COC number, and then the congressional district. So for my grant in particular, it's 4 and 8. And that's it for the summary. But going in, we have the goals module, and the goals are going to be mostly pre-input for you all. For most of you, not all of you, there are some exceptions currently in the prod environment, but we will be working on that. But in the goals section, you're going to have goals which are specific to your grant. So for example, this is a 2022 grant. They had the episodically homeless measures, so they're going to see that. But however, if I go in and open my 2024 grant, which is this one, you can see 2024, it's not going to have those same measures. So if we go into goals, you can see in enrollments, it's only 2 rows, while here in the 2022 grant, it's 3, because you have the number of participants enrolled who were episodically homeless, and percentage of participants trained. So like as you can see, while the 2024 grant, it's number of participants enrolled and percentage of participants trained. And therefore, like exits is only the 1. And then here you have the cost of placement. Well, you're not going to have that in the 2022 grant. So here in placement, you don't have cost per placement. You just have the episodically homeless placed and the average hourly wage. So here, placement, number of exit participants placed into employment, placement rate, the number of exit participants who are episodically homeless placed into employment, the cumulative of the episodically homeless placement rate, the average hourly wage, quarterly and cumulative. And then here, same different things. The 2024 has the number of exit participants placed into employment, the placement rate, the estimated cost per quarter, the cost per placement, the average hourly wage at placements, quarterly and cumulative. And this number here, in the goal section is calculated based off of whatever was input as the requested funding amounts in the summary page. So when your coders or the national office is inputting the goals, your data, your goals, the ones that the plan goals chart that you had submitted, and this number gets pulled straight from that summary page, so it's fine if they don't have any information budget yet for this to populate. We can go over these further, but I did want to focus on a feature here. So you don't see this feature in the summary page. You didn't see it in the grantee organization record, but this Learn More feature, it's a collapsible text box that explains any set measure or field. So for this, in particular, in the goals module, you can see like every subsection, every set of grids, we have a Learn More. So you can go in and click on them at any point to indeed learn more about them. So for this first one, it is in relation to enrollments. We're going to click that. You can see understanding goals, enrollments. Since we only have the two measures, you're going to only see the two explanations. So number of participants enrolled. I'm not going to read this, but number of participants enrolled and an explanation on that. While if we go into our 2022, we can go ahead and click Learn More. We can calm down. So here you're going to see 3 instead of the 2. So once again, understanding goals, enrollments, number of participants enrolled, number of participants enrolled who were episodically homeless, and percentage of participants enrolled. And it's a nifty little feature that gives you whatever information you may potentially need within the application. Some items that were designated that might be too much or may change, maybe too dynamic to be explained in the application because it takes a bit of time to get the updates pushed into production. Those have been explained or have like an indicator to go into the glossary of terms, and you're going to especially see that in the participants module. Unfortunately, I don't think on this grant I might have participants in this one. And if we do not go over it today, we will definitely go over it tomorrow. But I did want to explain that. So in budget, we have 2 sections.
Tara,
Yes.
I'm sorry. I just want to clarify something on the goals.
Yes.
We are putting in the goals information for each of the grants. It's not completed yet. We do intend to have it completed, I believe, by the end of this month.
So yes, not all goals are completed, but they will be completed by the end of the month. Fantastic. Thank you, Nicole.
Yeah.
Okay, so will each grantee be responsible? Please clarify, will each grantee be responsible for inputting information from previous years? We are in year 3 of our incremental funding. That I think, go ahead, Nicole.
Yeah, so I believe right now we are currently asking grantees that to enter participant information for program year 23. So for you, if you're in your 3rd year, you won't have to enter for your initial program year, but only for program year 23 and then of course Q1 for 24 and forward.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so in the budget section, once more, we will go into this in greater depth in a little bit. We do have two sections, one for planned and one for actual, and you will see something that I'm going to point out right now. Unlike in summary and goals, in the budget and a couple of modules going forward, you will have a button, and this button in general, a button that you see in this area, we call it a related action. The related action for the budget module is to manage the budget module, and as a grantee staff member, you are able to do so. So I can go ahead and click this if I wanted to. We're not going to do any data entry today. I might do some with you guys tomorrow, just for the sake of time, but as you can see, I have some data in here. We can go ahead and go through it and add more. But since this is a 2024 grant and more isn't really added, and since we're only in Q1, don't really need to add an actual here. But what we will do before we submit our performance report is actually add some data into this actual. So regardless, we will touch up on it, but I do have that 2022 grant that we can also play with a little bit that has some data as well. So personnel as well, you have a related action item or related action button. But before I click that, you can see in the personnel section for this grant, we have two positions. So one being the director of grants, two being the veterans coordinator. So in this grant, we have the two personnel positions, but we do not have any employee names attributed or added to them. And as a grantee, you can go ahead and click Manage Personnel. And then as a grantee, your job and responsibility is to manage the employees. Your goder or other user manages the position. So the goder in this case had gone ahead and input and created each of these positions. So they created the veteran of grants, input however much you said is going to be their percentage of time or their full-time equivalent. The same thing for the veterans coordinator and had input that. So for this position, it's a full-time position. Since as you can see, they're both vacant, if I hover over it, the vacant says an employee has never been allocated to this position, or all employees allocated have end dates prior to the current reporting quarter. So I can go ahead and test that. Well, this is 2024, so I can't really test it too much, but I can go ahead and type in an employee name. That reminds me, I'm going to when we go over it tomorrow and eventually Thursday, there's some other features we'll sort of play around with it. But what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put Nicole as my director. Her start date is going to be 07/01/2024, so the beginning of this program year. And once I do that, we have staff. So when I hover over staff, it says an employee allocated to this position has no end date or has an end date that falls during or after the current reporting quarter. So we can also test that. So it said after, therefore, that we all know that the quarter ends at the end of September. So I'm going to go ahead and input October. Despite it saying she has an end date of October 9th, she's still staffed because it's staffed up until the end of this quarter. So I'm just going to go ahead and submit this. We can go in greater demonstration of this tomorrow. But yeah, so we will manage the second position and everything tomorrow. Next up is our grantee user access module. This module has the list of grantee users, as I previously mentioned, in the search column, in the search category of grants. We have the column of grantee user access, I think count was what it, yeah, count, and that redirects you directly to this page. It helps us keep track of how many users are associated with every grant. And as you can see, it has said 4, and we have 4 here. We're going to jump into participants. I'm going to go through up until history, just like quickly go over it so we can have a more thorough demonstration of everything. But participants is just some instructional text. We have 2 views for participants. this view, which we call the nested, and then we also have a show tabular view. These two views are going to be better understood tomorrow when we have more data. They're just a little hard to show, but show tabular has this cool feature of the breakdown of information. So participants, more of the demographic information. Enrollment is like everything that you capture at the initial enrollment. Trainings, every training you provided. Services received, every services this particular participant had received. And exits and follow-ups, related questions, and on a view you can see all the different information. Since we have no participants right now, we do not have any data and cannot really explore this too much. Next, we have outcomes. Outcomes, this is not really in a directly manageable module. This is managed through all the information that you input via goals, budget, goals, budget, and participants modules. I can, as a grantee staff user or VETS user, click recalculate outcomes, but since we didn't really add anything in the goals, budget, or participants, we're not going to see any changes here. But we do have two views here. We have all outcomes, and as you can see, it's quite a lot of rows. So for a 24 grant or 2024 grant, we have 85 items. It's going to be different for 2022, I believe. But we could go ahead, hit show for scores focus, and this shows everything that gets graded for your performance report. So currently we're goal not meeting everything. There's also goal partially met and goal met, but because we don't have any data, we're not meeting our quota. Or goals, I should say. And this, okay, here. I'm glad that I saw this here. Otherwise, I was going to jump over. But this icon here, it's a little eye. Elsewhere, it gets referred to as a tooltip, and you're going to see this a lot in the participants module, specifically the enrollments module. So therefore, you're not going to see it today. We're not going to discuss it too much in detail today, but we will discuss it tomorrow when we go into and perform a more thorough demonstration of the participants and enrollments module. But when you see this next to a measure or a field, that means when you hover over it, in like every context except for this, if you hover over it, it's going to give you all text that explains either the field measure itself and what it's asking, or what the answers and selections mean. And then next we have performance reports. This is something we're going to go into in greater detail, but as you guys remember, in the search page, the performance reports category, we had a performance report, and that's where this one came from. As a grantee staff member, I am able to manage performance reports. VET staff cannot manage them because it's owned by grantees, and therefore it is managed by grantees. So I'm not going to go into this too much in detail because, once again, Thursday is like reserved specifically for everything performance reports. So we're going to jump into history. History shows all updates across all of the previous, except for the participants and enrollments modules. And it's just like a log timestamp. This grid captures category details, like what happened, it was managed or created or something, and timestamp of when this had occurred. And as you guys saw, I had changed the personnel module to include Nicole as my director. Therefore, it captured that timestamp. And Jacob had added me to this grant. That's why you see this one here too. But yeah, that is a grant record. With that, I'm going to stop the demonstration. I'm going to go back into the PowerPoint. Where is my deck? There you go. Now to find my slide, just give me one moment. Resume. There you go. Okay, so system terms, part 1. So we have 2 pages for this. Related actions. Those are action buttons that are located in the upper right region of the window. These allow you to manage the content of the page you are viewing. So as grantees, you will see related actions across certain grant records and modules. Those modules being the budget, personnel, participants, and performance reports. And within the performance report, modules of summary and narrative. Because those are all things that you own. Those are data that you own and update and input. So therefore, you have to be able to manage them, and therefore you have related action buttons, and that is why I showed you those. Instructions, they provide a brief explanation of the items seen on any particular page or module. This text will often include explanation of any actions that may occur. And in some cases, such as outcomes and participants, it also informs you of the 2 different views and view types if you want to switch between. So our next system term is learn more. These are detailed information meant to break down fields, measures, or data to better understand what a form or grid may be displaying. And that's why I went over it in the goals module, just so you can see them. Part 2 of the system terms, we have tooltips. These are manageable bite-sized help text for field or measure within the system that users hover over to get further information about what is being asked or the explanation of answers. Selections, I should say. Modules are subsections within records designed to perform specific tasks and manage data. For example, in the context of a grant, which is a type of record, modules contain detailed information and functionalities related to various aspects of the grant. That's why in our demo just now, I wanted to cover each of those different sections and items just so you were a little bit familiar. And I hope the definitions helped as well. That being said, we're going to go into the grantee organization record. So grantee organization records, these are records created by VETS staff. The summary dashboard includes basic information about the organization, which are identifiers, contacts, address, and notes. Grantees can only see the records they have been directly provisioned access to, and that's via the membership list as we explored. So this is the view of the grantee organization record as we had previously explored. The summary has instructions with the different sections for identifiers, contacts, address, and additional information, which is just a big section just for notes. But these are all fictional, but the identifier includes organization name, the UEI, which is the unique entity identifier, the EIN, which is the employee identification number, the organization type, contacts, which provide the primary phone and email of the organization and secondary phone and email of the organization. Address includes whichever legal address is provisioned SF 424, the application for federal assistance. So there's 2 lines for the address. The second line is always optional. There's the city, state, territory selector, and then the zip code. And then in the final section, we have the additional information, which has the notes. And in this case, it was created as a part of, for the grantee training that we have today. The grantee organization members list. This lists the 4 grantee staff users that have been provisioned access to the organization. So in this case, this is in a different environment, therefore that's why we only have 1 member on this screenshot. But it has your instructions, it has your section for members list, it is a search grid. So if should, for whatever reason, this organization have, say, 20 members, I wanted to confirm that Sarah K is indeed added here. I can type in Sarah K's email. I can type in Sarah. I can type in whatever the full last name is and see if she has been added to organization or not before I get her to follow up with her go-to. That being said, we're going to go into the grant record management. So a grant record is created by VETS staff. Only grantee staff users that have been provisioned access to a specific record, grant record will be able to view said grant record. Grantee staff with grant access can update the budget and personnel, staff name and time. And along with the, the participants, enrollments, and performance report modules. Only VET staff can update summary, goals, personnel, budget, the positions and the full-time equivalencies, and the grantee user access modules. So grant summary dashboard includes all the high-level grant information, which includes the identifiers, assignments, award information, service delivery area, the additional information, which is another fancy term for notes, the sidebar, which includes the statuses of active, terminated, standard, or, well, not standard, but high risk if should a grant be designated as high risk. Only VET staff can update this module's information, and that includes the ability to report a grant's termination, update the grant's risk indication, or delete a grant record. So once more, this is how it looks like. Let me briefly turn on the laser pointer. If your grant was terminated instead of active, it would say terminated here. If your grant was in high risk, it would say that somewhere along the lines of here. But fortunately, that's not the case in here. What I can do is, for the sake of seeing the differences, in tomorrow's demonstration, I can have the 2022 grant be high risk. And then along the lines have Jacob terminated so you can see the difference. But okay, so jumping into the goals module. The goals module provides a period of performance pop view of all measures within multiple tables split by category. Each category has its own Learn More feature to better understand the measures listed. Only VET staff can update this module. Grantee staff users can view but not edit the goals module. VET staff are still updating the goals module in VGRS, so some grantees may see blank entries until those are finalized. And as Nicole had mentioned, the estimation is at the end of this month, so August 31st. In addition, a system update that is planned for August 19th will allow VETs to complete the following goal module updates. So all POP year 3 grants will have 0 value goals for POP quarters 1 through quarter 4. All POP year 3 IVTP grants will have 0 value goals for episodically homeless indicators. Any grant with 0 value goals in their approved goals chart. All POP year 1 grants with an abstract or planned goals chart condition of award, COA, that has submitted a revised attachment A VET 704. You guys may have noticed the zeros in the staging environment. Like I mentioned, the staging environment has the latest updates that will be going into prod, and as mentioned in this note, that push will occur next week on the 19th. So I just wanted to give you guys that familiarity with this, because these are features that will be going forward as you start data input instead of like this tiny 3-day window in between, which you may not even be provision access until next week anyways. But moving forward, so this is what a goals module looks like. As you guys know, it had different categories like enrollments, exited, placed, and exits and follow-ups. And in enrollments, we went over that Learn More feature. This is a 2024 grant. That's why you only see 2 measures in the enrollment section, and that's why you also only see 2 explained in the Learn More section, Learn More feature. Next, we have our budget module. This provides a pop view of all budget-related measures. Measures are split between planned and actual categories. Each category has its own Learn More feature to better understand the measures listed. VETS and grantee staff both can update this module, and you guys update the same exact thing. So if I was to update, not that your coder would be going in to update at the same time as you, but if I went in to update Q1, PY1, Q1, for both planned and actual, my coder, if requested, may go in and update it as well. So this is the view budget module. No, this is the budget module view. And as you can see, it has the section. We see planned, actuals got cut off in the screenshot. We have our instructions, and underneath, I'm not sure if you guys noticed, but underneath the table, we have our Learn More. If you're not sure if you also noticed in the goals module, the Learn More is featured on the right. If you guys like how it's listed here in the plan, we may just remove it from the right and bring it down here potentially, but that's feedback that you guys can provide once you're actively using the application. So here we're jumping into the personnel module. This provides a pop view of all the employees within positions and their related time allocation across quarters. This module calculates actual percentage of time, POT, from the position's designated POT. VETS and grantee staff can update this module. VETS staff can only manage the different positions listed or to be listed. Grantee staff can manage the employee information listed per each position. As you guys saw, when I added Nicole, I had the ability to input like her percentage of time as well, but we didn't go over that today because it's not so much important in the current demo, but we will go into that further tomorrow and or Thursday. This is the view of the personnel module. Nothing too much different to show besides you can see here, let me laser pointer. We have the related action, we have our instructions, we have our section, and each of the positions are numbered. But we do have our position title, we have the full-time equivalent, the percentage of time, and the status being staffed. As you can see here, this user does not have, this employee does not have an end date, and therefore it's technically a staff position, even if for the current quarter it said 0. But going next, grantee user access module. This module lists all grantees with user access to this grant. Being listed here provides the grantee the ability to view the grant record and manage certain modules, which is the budget, personnel, participants, enrollments, and performance reports. VETS staff can add grantees to a grant record. Grantees cannot add fellow grantees, which is why as a grantee user, I do not see the related action button. This module has the instructional text. We have our grid, and the grid lists everyone that has access, and it's only me in this example. So next we have our participants module. The participants form requires the entry of demographic and military service information before an enrollment can be created. Enrollments are created under each participant. A participant can have multiple enrollments, but the service start date of the subsequent enrollment must be at least 90 days after to the previous enrollment service end date. This we are going to demonstrate in detail tomorrow, and I will be sure to start the conversation before we demonstrate it with the slide again, just to reiterate and just to refresh everybody's memories. But users can explore the data via nested or tabular views, which I did show, but because we didn't have any data, there was nothing to see. Data can be exported into an Excel file for each of the tabular grids. Grantee staff manage this module. However, all users with grant access can see the inactive participant notifications within this module, and we're going to explore that as well. I'm going to create a grantee that's deliberately like a year young, or like it has been inactive for like a year or a good chunk of months. Disclaimer, VGRS is a performance reporting system, not a case management system. Grantees should maintain case files under participants independent of the data entered in VGRS. So this is the form view. When I go into manage participants, this is what the form is going to look like when I go to create a new participant or manage this particular participant. VGRS generates participant IDs from data entered in the participant module. Grantees may enter their own custom identifier as well. Not sure if you guys can see it, if it's shown too much, but like participant identifier is going to be broken down tomorrow as well. But it is, when I input data, I'll show you which segment comes from where, and then this custom identifier could be whatever that your system, your case management system has. I can only see the slide, page 44. Okay, hold on one second. Let me stop sharing and I'll reshare. Stop sharing, stop presenting. Sorry, I saw something in the chat and I wanted to make sure that I get you caught up. Present. Resume. Annette, can you see slide 53 now? Excellent. Okay. No problem. Okay. So the custom identifier can come from a case management system or whatever you want to include, but it must not include any PII, and that is included on the form. Please do not do that. Okay, this is an excellent example because this is the inactive participant enrollment banner we spoke about. So if you have an inactive participant, everybody that has access to that record can see it, not just you as a grantee. So your goder can come into the record at any time. This is also going to be on your performance report, so be sure that you address those. And such users that do have this will have a related indicator to the left. But this is what we call the nested view. When you click on it, it shows it essentially below this grid shows you the participant form view without it being manageable. This is what we call our tabular view, and it's got, so you can only see one grid, one row of data, but this is the participants tab. If I clicked across, it would have other data, but this is all of the data collected at the time of participant creation. So navigating to participant enrollments module, navigating participant enrollment view. So when I click on manage participants related action, it's going to show me a grid that's more or less like the one in the regular participants view, the read-only view. And if I was to click this link, it will open a view-only version of the participant information like in the drop-down nested view. So don't click here if you intend to edit any participant enrollment information. If you're trying to edit, this is what you're supposed to click, this pencil. But if you're trying to, so the pencil's to update participant, the clipboard's to manage enrollments, and this X, which is its own separate column. That's why there's this faint line right here, and it's even more faint over here. It is to remove or delete the participant. So try to avoid clicking that unless you absolutely have to. But going forward, once again, we'll go into greater detail for that, just like we will go into greater detail for everything enrollments I'm going over in the next few minutes. The enrollments module, the participant view, this is like how you, once you click on a participant, once you click on the clipboard at that manage participants page, you will see a page like this. You must click the enter new enrollment to create a new enrollment. You can't create a new one. Like you can go into the clipboard and then just be like, okay, I can't create one. You must click this in order to create, and we will go over that tomorrow. Next, we have the form view, and this is just what the form looks like, or partially what it looks like. We'll see just how detailed it is tomorrow. The trainings. So the enrollments module trainings, the enrollments form has a training section that captures the participants' training, if any, from service start to service end. Rows can be added by selecting the add training link below the grid. Entries can be removed by clicking on the red X to the right of the desired row. Training entries are required only when a row has been created. Therefore, if no training rows have been created, the form may submit to save as long as all other required rows have correct inputs. If a training row has been created but no data has been input, the enrollment will not save to submit. Note, the enrollment must have at least one service or training date received, recorded, and vigorous to be considered an enrollment for the reporting quarter. Trainings fields, the following captured per training row is that the information captured per training row is as follows: training type, number of hours, start date, end date, program year completed, quarter completed, notes, and the training view. So like this is a screenshot of just the training section of enrollment form. We go into greater details on that, but as you can see, it's a table. You have this add training. If you do not click this, you will not be able to input a training record, and you're able to delete them as needed. Next, we have our services received in the enrollments form. The enrollments form has a services section that captures the participant services received from service start to service end, and any follow-up services provided up to 4 quarters after exit. Rows can be added by selecting the Add Service Received link below the grid. Entries can be removed by clicking on the red X to the right of the desired row. Services received entries are required only when a row has been created. Therefore, if no services received rows have been created, the form may submit to save as long as all other required rows have correct inputs. If a services received row has been created but no data has input, the enrollment will not submit to save. No, a participant must have at least one service or training date recorded and vigorous to be considered an enrollment for the reporting quarter. So you must go in and update that information. You're able to submit to save without it, but you must go back and update. Enrollments module, the services received fields, entries are to be added, updated for each service type for reporting quarter completed. I just noticed the time. We are at time. I can pick up from slide 63 tomorrow. Or actually I could pick up from participants because we're going to go into a greater demonstration for that. But yeah, we are at time. I appreciate everybody taking the time to join us here today. We will pick up from where we left off tomorrow, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.